Hey YouTube, it's James from the Wyvern Watch here with another deck profile, but this for the first time is a redo of one I did last year. It's still sort of my main deck at the moment. I would say it's probably the most competitive deck I currently use. Not everyone's cup of tea, and I certainly wouldn't suggest it's actually meta at this point in time, but it does seem to do pretty well as a rogue option, I suppose you could call it. I've gone to town with the rarities on this one because I just like the artwork. I've been waiting for, I was waiting for this one to come out for a long time before it actually did. So I picked everything up in collector's rare, and then the introduction of Magnifica and Martha sort of changed the value on these cards a little bit. But speaking of which, let's start. So we have got 3 Exosister Martha. Pretty much the heart and soul of the deck now, I would definitely say so. Great looking card again. This is the sort of the main trigger of the deck, so you know it can special summon itself, it'll special summon Ellis from the deck, and obviously opens up you to a world of plays. It's probably the one to search for off the back of Casper Tell as well, and it's the only one that you can actually trigger its own effect by you moving a card from your graveyard in order to XC summon. I had to get them in Starlight Rare. Again, they're in. They weren't that expensive. I've got a few Starlight Rares in my collection. These are actually some of the cheaper ones, but they still look absolutely fantastic in Starlight Rare, and I'll be holding on to these for as long as I can possibly do it. So the pairs, obviously Martha is paired up with Ellis, which again, in my opinion, is an absolute must at 3. Really loving the sort of prismatic secret rares from the latest Megatin as well. They sort of show it off a little bit better than the super rares that were originally came with it. But yeah, Alice is the one that sort of is summoned by Martha from the deck, but also she can summon herself, assuming you control another Exosister monster from the hand as well. So you know, really good option, but again, must be at 3. There's no way you'd consider this at less than 3 at this point in time. Another 3 of is Stella. So Stella is the original pair up for Ellis. Stella will allow you to summon one from your hand, effectively summon an Exosister monster from your hand, and like I say, it's paired up with Ellis, and both of course will, if your opponent moves a card from the graveyard, then you can Xyz over the top of them, of course, as well. Yeah. But again, that's Exosister Stella. And this one is slightly more controversial because these are the Sophias. Now, most players that I've seen tend to run at 2, but I'm not playing the, you know, whatever they are, the Aratama options, you know, the, I forget what they're actually called now, but, you know, those spirit options, that's what I'm looking for, the spirit options that come in and out. I'm not playing those. I decided I don't think I need them. Maybe that's going against everybody else's views, but I think I'd rather keep my deck pure, or as pure as possible. For that reason, I've gone with 3 Sophias, which is actually paired up with Irene coming up next. These effects are a little bit more useful because Sophia, if there's another Exosister monster on the field, you can also draw an extra card, which I utilise more often than not. But yeah, so 3 of Sophia. It's really just to get the names up as well. Only the one of course, on young Irene though. Her effect is similar to Sophia's, where you're allowed to draw one, but you do also have to sort of shuffle one back as well, which is okay. But it works well with Sophia. You know, if you're using a Vardis, then the Sophia Irene option is always good because that gets the Irene out of the deck, so you're not drawing it later. Plus, if you can keep them on the field, you know, you can obviously go for the draws as well. But yeah, Exosister Irene again in the prismatic secret rare. And the only other monster that I run in my deck and has been here for quite some time now, is the old Dimension Shifter. I think it's probably having slightly less of an impact in the meta at the moment than it used to have, but you know, a bit of a mean card really. You know, if you open it, it's always a good deal for Exosister players, because we just simply do not use the graveyard. I can't think of any effects that do really, but yeah, so always a good option for Exosisters, but I can't see any reason not to play it in the main at the moment. On to spells then. First spell, of course, is Exosister Packs. You know, obviously it's a good search option as well, but you know, the fact it's quick play, and if you've got one of the other twins or the paired up monsters in the field or on the graveyard, you can special summon that monster immediately as well. So you know, it's quite useful because you can go for your spell and trap cards in your turn, or you can potentially go for the special summon of an Exosister monster, which then of course, if the opponent is moving cards from the graveyard, you can trigger into an Exceed summon. That's the idea of it. Again, in Collector's Rare, the foiling on the packs, you can't really make it out on camera. Oh, there we go. You can just see it going through the sky there. It's honestly, it's a beautiful card. The only other three of I'm running is Dark Ruler No More. We're very much a going second build, I would say. So Dark Ruler No More just switches off the opponent's effects. Obviously, they're taking no damage on the same turn, but you know, we just want to gain control back for the Exosisters. But you know, again, a very, very useful card. The next two we're running is a Pot of Prosperity. I'd be very surprised if this isn't limited to 2 anyway, but everyone knows what Pot of Prosperity does. They're very, very handy in this deck, of course, going to search for the missing Martha or whatever it is that you need. We're running 3 one-offs, so there's the Exosister Arment, which I find always very useful. The other one that I tend to side in or out is the Carpe Diem. But the Arment is to exceed someone on your opponent's turn, of course, which is very, very handy. Just the one-off on the Dimensional Fissure. I actually had this in my deck as a one-off prior to it being released on the ban list. But I just thought we'll stick with it for now. It seems to do okay. And then Harpy's Feather Duster, of course, is always a good option for any deck at the moment. The traps now. So we've got a reasonably heavy trap line up in this deck, to be fair. But it does mask. You know, when you've got a couple of face downs, it masks this card, because this is always a good option. You know, if we can avoid any back row destruction, then having a few out there just to sort of give their opponent a bit of cover. Sorry, give me a bit of cover for, you know, if I've got one of these and then play maybe 2 of the others set down. Only 1 in 3 chance of it getting targeted, sort of thing. But the Vardis is the one that special summons 2 from the deck as long as they're matching pairs, which means, of course, Martha and Ellis and Stella, or indeed Sophia and Irene. Very, very handy, especially if you can chain it to an effect that obviously means that the opponent's moving a card out of the graveyard, of course. Just the 2 Returnia, only because these are still very much searchable through Michaelis. So the Returnia basically means that you can potentially go for 4 banishes on your opponent's turn, 2 of which would be non-targeting. So you know, there's real potency there, and I'll perhaps show you the little combo on another video. But the Returnia is really an excellent addition to the deck, and like I say, if you master it, you can get the 4 banishes out of there in 1 turn. Again, still playing with this, but it seems to be doing very, very well in the against the meta at the moment. So we're going with 3 evenly matched. I'm not going to explain what all of these do. You're all proficient players, shall we say, but evenly matched, you know, should just really devastate a board. We've got infinite impermanence as well. I don't know if people are actually going off this a little bit now, but I still like it. You know, just the targeting negation for just one particular monster. But you know, sometimes you can get the opponent caught out with activating a spell in the wrong column. And the last two traps are, in fact, goes and match. The whole deck is light, of course. So this can catch people out. Obviously, it gets sided out fairly often, depending on the matchup. But goes and match, really, I find it really works in this deck. So if you can just pin the opponent down, holding their graveyard, but also making sure that they can only obviously summon one attribute, really sort of narrows their plays down, so I can ultimately punish them in the next turn. That's the idea behind it anyway. So that goes and match. That's it for the deck. So that is actually 40 cards, straightforward stuff there. Onto the extra deck then. So most of this is pretty generic, I would say, but there's a few options in here that people could sort of change around with. But we do have the 2 copies of Exosister Magnifica. We're pretty much into this card every first turn. If I'm going first, it's obviously, I'm assuming I'm not stopped halfway through the combo. Magnifica is my opener. I'll end in Magnifica in defense position with 2 to 3 back row to sort of start that sort of 4-card combo in order to banish 4 cards. But again, a great looking card again, and I've got the playmat as well for this one as well, which looks really sweet. The bread and butter of the extra deck, I would say, is probably the Michaelis. Always run this one at 3, just so we don't run out of them effectively. But yeah, again, in collector's rare, this one, really, again, you can really struggle to see the card itself, but very, very pretty card. But obviously using that in conjunction with Magnifica is also very potent. But, you know, the spell and trap card search as well, equally as useful. Little ultra rare upgrade for Caspatel. They were previously rares. So, yeah, Caspatel is your monster searcher. Again, probably the opener of the Xyz lineup. Pretty straightforward. Other than that, it shuts the graveyard down, the Terminator summon. So, you know, again, another graveyard hate card. I've got 2 Gibrine. Probably only need 1 really. So if there was something I wanted to put in a little bit more important, I might sort of strip this down to 1. But this is your sort of OTK enabler. Will boost all Xyz monsters, all Exosister monsters by 800 for the rest of the turn, which means that you can go into this, then go into Magnifica. Boost Magnifica up to 34, and then obviously Magnifica's poking twice, so you can really cause some damage there. A Sophiel as well, just the one off on a Sophiel. In all fairness, I probably need to utilize this card a little bit more. You know, they can only use the effect of this card is XYZ summon using Exosister monster as material. Neither player can activate cards or effects in the graveyard this turn. So again, it just shuts it down, doesn't it? So, you know, not something I go into all the time, but it is there as an option. And then 5 more, which are Utopic, numbers F0, Utopic Future, and obviously to go with it to Utopic Draco Future. And just a couple of options. So I've got number 41 Baguska, just in case things are going absolutely pear-shaped. We've got a Gargoyle Cowboy for game, and of course, it being an Xyz deck, we struggle to run it without Divine Arsenal AA Zeus. So that is it for the deck. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate any comments or feedback on this deck. Like I say, it is one of my favourites. As I would probably say, I'm most known for using this deck at my locals now. People don't like going up against it if they're not 100% sure on how it's played. But if you do know how it's played, it's actually fairly easily counterable. So you know, I get the odd win out of it, but it's great fun to play, and that's what I'm here for. Guys, like I say, leave a comment, throw some likes out there, but also do subscribe, because we're up to 29 subscribers now, and I appreciate that's not very many, but for the ones that have, thank you very much indeed. I appreciate you you hitting that button, and obviously you've liked what you've seen so far. There's only more of these to come, and I'll like I say, I'm up to 44 current format decks now, so there's more to come, and there'll be more deck profiles and more opportunity for you to absolutely badmouth me all over the comments. Thank you very much, guys. That was obviously a joke. We'll see you next time. Cheers. Bye.